Did you know that... I don't know what I was gonna say. This is like the best beginning ever to your video. It would be if you helped instead of making jokes. So I was thinking, somewhat recently, that a lot of times you hear some things in church that you don't expect to hear. Or at least that's not what you're looking for when you're going to church. Sometimes there are things in church that you happen to hear that you were not expecting to hear, and some have hilarious results and some just drive you insane. And so, in case you were wondering, my name is James, and you're watching James of Many Names, and the topic for today is the unusual noises you will hear when you're in church. Number one, the sick person. Now, you hear these people everywhere, but I always like when you hear them in church. I applaud them for being so devout to come to church, but also, could you sit in the back room, please? Because your hacking, your coughing, and your sneezing right behind me is making me feel very self-conscious of the fact that there's probably spittle flying over the back of my head, and I'm probably gonna catch whatever you have. And wouldn't you know, that's actually usually the case. Some family gets a sickness in the church, and it's gonna spread throughout the rest of the congregation. You just know it's gonna happen. Number two, the tapping. I'm sorry, this is my flaw. Sometimes it's very hard to sit still in church, and there is a good deal of tapping, of shifting in the pew. Usually your leg is shaking or something's happening, and whatever it is, they're either tapping the pew behind you or they're tapping the front, and sometimes we or they are shaking so much that the whole pew is starting to move. No, it is not an earthquake. There is no miracle happening. It is the excessive amount of energy that is in my body that is desperately trying to come out. And now I'm shaking the whole pew because my legs are shaking. I know it doesn't make sense. You think it's because you have... No, I don't have to go to the bathroom. Be quiet. Suffice to say, I know this is gonna get really, really annoying, especially when you're in the same pew as them and you're wondering, why is my pew suddenly shaking? Oh, yeah, no, their leg's going off again. Or what is that sound? There is, again, no special message from God in Morse code coming to you. It's just the person tapping their fingers on the pew in front of them. Number three, snoring. We hate to admit this, but sometimes the sermon gets really long in church and we start to fall asleep just a little bit. My problem is nodding off. There are some people, however, that fall into such a deep sleep that they will actually start snoring. And it's not even because the sermon is long. We literally just start the sermon, we read the epistle and the gospel in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Ghost. It's that bad, and I love when they snore because usually, if someone hasn't poked them, usually the priest somehow incorporates into his sermon something about paying attention to the evils of the world and waking up to it, and he'll smash his podium and try to wake them up. It kind of helps, but also doesn't because they're back asleep in about 3 minutes, maybe tops. Number four, wailing children. Now you might think that wailing children is a normal thing to hear because people bring their kids to church, they have little children, and the little children just don't want to pay attention and they're causing problems. Yes, but have you heard the types of wailing that come from children? Some of it is actually quite hilarious. My favorite thing to hear is when a child has crossed the line and making noise and the parent is dragging them out of church to take them out into the parking lot, probably for some type of punishment. And usually you hear something along these lines from the child. No, don't take me out. No spank, no spank, no spank. I'll be good, I promise, no spank. Usually coupled with them finally being dragged out the door, and this is usually what you're gonna hear. No! I'm not joking, it's pretty hilarious actually. Listening to the things they're saying as they're trying desperately not to be punished when they get outside that building, because they know once they get outside that building, that parent's not gonna hold back anymore. And number five, the homeless chatter. Now maybe you don't have this problem at your church depending on where you live, but the church I go to is in a city that happens to have homeless people around that area. And sometimes the homeless people decide to wander into the church in the middle of mass and they start chattering away. They're looking for a bathroom. They're looking for handouts in the middle of everything that's going on. Sometimes they're just blithering because they're completely out of their minds because they're high. Suffice to say, it is the least pleasant thing to have your mass interrupted. You're praying, you're feeling holy, and then that person comes in the back, and you're just kind of freaking out in the back of your head like, oh my gosh, don't come here, don't come here. And sure enough, they're walking up the aisle and they're coming towards you. You're wondering, who's gonna deal with them? Who's gonna deal with them? Not me, usually. Usually it's someone else. And that's it. 5 unusual things you're going to hear when you are at church. If any of these are familiar, or if there's any that you have particularly heard that are interesting, please comment that down below. Also, a quick reminder, linked below is my book, Julius Julii, Book 1, Power of the Julii, that is available in softback and in ebook, and I shall be doing the audiobook very soon with that, or at least getting auditions for that very soon. If you're interested, go check that out, and like I said, I shall have that writing project up on this channel fairly soon, as soon as I finish the writing process. And if you noticed, I'm wearing the same shirt 3 weeks in a row. That's pretty good. Or 2 weeks. I don't know. It's because I'm filming these all in order, okay? You could just take it off for filming. You could just stop being a smartass. Anyway, I think that's pretty much it. Have a good day. Go to church. It's the holy thing to do. And shoo, get out of here.